Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our special extra show. It's Friday, not Wednesday today, and we have a special guest with us. Of course, we're going to introduce her in just a moment. I'm going to give everybody a couple of seconds to be viewing the show and the program to make sure everything's running okay. It looks like we're doing fine so far. It's going to be a really exciting show, and if you've never seen me before, by the way, my name is Amanda, and this is Once in a Wild. We have our very special guest that's going to be joining us as well. It looks like we are good to go, so let's go ahead and begin. Hooray! Let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see right next to me, I have a special guest with me. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself, and I'm going to turn my camera back on because this is real life. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for having me so much, Amanda. My name is Rachael, and I am the owner and educator here at Doodlebugs Animal Adventures. So much like you guys, I do educational presentations with animals, and I was just doing in-person presentations in Orange County, California, and surrounding cities, but like you, COVID hit, and things had to change, so now I do a lot of virtual presentations. So I teach on OutSchool. I also have some story times on YouTube, but my whole message is to get children and adults excited about the natural world. So I use my animal friends, my animal ambassadors. They come with me, we explore, we ask questions, and my whole motto is a curious mind can change the world. And I strongly believe that. So I encourage kids to ask questions and be excited about the natural world. So I'm very happy to be here and share some of my animal friends with you and see some of your animals too, because it's so exciting to talk to other wildlife educators out there, just really trying to change the world in our own teeny tiny, special, amazing way.
Absolutely. So you have a very, very similar job to what we do here at Once in a Wild. And again, if it's the first time seeing Once in a Wild, that's exactly what we do as well. But we're here in San Antonio, Texas, which is most of the reason why we're not actually sitting next to each other right now. We're broadcasting from two different states across the country from each other. But also, of course, with the times, we've had to adapt as well, just like you said. Yeah. So yeah, we started off as an in-person program, mobile zoo, basically, going to classrooms and all kinds of things. Yep. And we had to adapt to the times. So that's what we're doing now. And now we can broadcast all over the world, just like you can.
Yes, it's so exciting to have this as an option because I've been doing classes for kids like as far away as in the Philippines. And that's not something that ever was in something that I would ever think that I would be doing, of reaching children all over the world. But with technology and Zoom presentations and OutSchool teaching and all of these different platforms, we're actually able to make the world a lot smaller, which it kind of should be because we're all connected, right? So it's really exciting to be able to offer that now, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things that happened through all of this year, 2020, is it forced us, at least, and you, and all kinds of keepers and animal professionals into basically stepping outside of our comfort zone. We're already all a little bit more used to talking to people and everything like that. Not every zookeeper and animal professional is used to that kind of stuff. At least we can talk to people already, but now we have to be used to doing it with technology.
So, which is its own little beast, and it's definitely been learning and definitely changing how we present it away too, because I don't know about you, but I really feed off of the energy. I love my large audiences. Don't get me wrong. I love my small classrooms as well, but there's something about that energy that you're getting back from the audience. And it was really intimidating just staring at a camera. But luckily with a lot of the platforms that I use, I can see my audience dancing along with me and singing along with me. And, I can see them get excited. So that is one benefit. But things like Instagram Live and these kinds of things are still a little bit weird and new and not something that I ever really thought I would be doing as a wildlife educator. But I think that's important with any field, that we're constantly adapting and we're constantly growing and changing and learning new skills. And as you know, when I was telling you to cut my own hair, we have to learn these new things. And it's cool that we can all do this. And I love seeing how you guys have really just kind of dived in, because it was like, dive the word? I don't know. You dove in, and you really you dove in. The English was not my strength. So you guys really you went right for it. And for me, I thought, this is the end. I'm not going to be able to teach kids anymore. But it worked out, and I love it. And I'm loving this whole new world that we're diving into, that we're working with.
I'm so glad that you also dove into that as well, because it would have been really sad. We're both small business owners as well.
Yeah.
We own our own businesses, which is kind of, I know with, we actually had another interview together for those of you that didn't see it over on Instagram on the Doodlebugs Instagram, which by the way, all of her links are in the description down below. I'm sure you can find more information at doodlebugsanimaladventures.com, which is also down below. So check it all out. You will not be regretting it. It's so much fun. But what I was going to say is during our interview, we talked about how much we didn't really expect to own our own business. We both kind of started on the same path and then worked for other people, of course, and zoos and things like that. And then started this new adventure. And you guys started before we did. We're only a year old. We actually hit our 1 year anniversary, like officially. We've been thinking about doing this for a while, of course, but like official, we hit a 1 year anniversary. Woo, we made it in 2020. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I actually started in officially 2018. So I've been teaching with animals for a long time. I went through the Moore Park Exotic Animal Training Program after I'd already been doing it for a while, and got my degree and was already doing stuff when I was getting my bachelor's. And then I started in 2018, things like just through word of mouth, people were, I didn't have to, do any marketing or anything like that, because one teacher would see it and they'd tell another teacher, which would tell another teacher. And I was completely booked up for 2020, and then it was all gone. So yeah, it was hard to see something that I built from the ground up that did take a lot of creativity and ingenuity and blood, sweat, and tears, and then to have that fear of like, well, what do I do now? And luckily it wasn't the end of Doodlebugs, and I do foresee live in-person presentations here in California happening eventually as well, for sure. In fact, we just had one that was supposed to be at Bellaterra Gardens. That will now be a virtual presentation for anybody who's interested. They have decided to pull their live presentations again for their kids club, but it will be happening this month, I think on the 12th of October, and it will be a virtual presentation. So that's actually good because many more people can attend now. So.
That is true, and that is definitely the bright side of the virtual, like you said earlier, and we'll say it over and over again. I'm never going to stop saying it. I can reach the whole entire world. We streamed to Dubai recently with Moles. You probably saw that program. Yeah. Check it out, everybody, on our YouTube. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of interviews and things over there to check out. They're really fun, if I do say so myself. Moles is an awesome YouTube channel as well. He's, I believe he's 11 years old, and he's actually from Florida. But he and his family moved to Dubai because his dad is a pilot. So they live over there. So we were able to live stream all the way to Dubai. And now we have some audience members in Dubai and all over the world. And we also streamed on a Zoom to, where was it? It was somewhere in Central America, and it'll come to me in a little bit. But it's really neat to be able to outreach to other people. But I do miss the in-person programs too. Like you said, I love my big audiences. I feed off of really big audiences. I am not shy at all. And talking to a camera is a little weird, but I'm getting used to it now.
It's getting a lot easier. I always wanted to be the female Jeff Corwin. I wanted to be like goofy on stage and whatever. And then I did some camera work, and I was like, not so much. I really like the live audience better. And so it's not like the strength, but it's definitely getting so much easier. So anybody, whether you're working with animals on camera, whatever, just do it if it sounds like it would be interesting, because it's scary as it is in the beginning, it does get easier.
So Ricky's correcting me. It was actually Abu Dhabi, right next door to Dubai, but we have audience members in Dubai now. Oh, Ricky's asking a great question. What kind of animals does Doodlebugs work with?
Oh my gosh. So I'm in California, as I said. So California is really good at protecting its native wildlife. So we have a lot of regulations here that you wouldn't get in places like Florida or Texas, where it's still hard and you still have to be regulated, but it's not as hard as it is in California. I can't even have a hedgehog without getting proper permitting for it. And so I don't have any of what we call the super exotics, but let's be honest, like, kids are excited about a roly-poly if you can present it in a fun way. So I work with things like lots of reptiles. I've got a blue-tongued skink, legless lizard, bearded dragon, lots of geckos, things like that. I have a lot of Amanda's favorites. I have a lot of the cockroaches. Oh, I know you don't like those ones. But yes, I have lots and lots of arthropods. So lots of, arachnids and lots of bugs and creepy crawlies and stuff like that. And then I'm limited on the types of mammals that I have, because California, again, is very restrictive on the types of mammals that you can have here. So I really only have the easy ones. I have a chinchilla and a rabbit, but let me tell you, the kids love them. So yeah. And then you can see all of the animals that I do have on Doodlebugs animaladventures.com. And I also have some fun like activities that you can do, like scavenger hunts and stuff that correlates with the animals on the website. So check it out.
Wonderful. I'm sure people will check that out. Let's say hello to everybody chiming in because we really appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm getting a bit of a comment. Does anybody else have a repeat on audio, or was that just at the beginning? So let us know, guys, how it sounds. Donna says it's looking good. That's good. We're broadcasting on both platforms. We had a little bit of a glitch yesterday or Wednesday on our regular show, but it looks like everything's fine. This is a nice comment. It's nice that you two are able to get business in these trying times. Yes. People still do want to learn about animals. Can you tell me about OutSchool a little bit?
So OutSchool, I keep referring to OutSchool, and to me, it's like I've been doing it since June, so it's kind of OutSchool. But OutSchool is a global virtual marketplace for online learning. So it's classes that are available for children ages 3 to 18, and you can literally find classes for anything there. There's lots of animal classes, but there's also cooking classes, there's math help, there's writing help, there's foreign languages. I've seen some classes that were even like hang out with My Little Ponies. Like it's anything that you can think of that your child is interested in. They can probably find a class for it on outschool.com. And OutSchool is free to sign up. And you can actually go to my information on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And I have a couple of links on there for your first $20 free towards your first class. But every class itself is a different length and a different cost, just depending on the teacher and the subject and all that kind of stuff. So I've been teaching there for a couple of months now, and I absolutely love it. It's a great experience. But my kids, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they're going to be taking classes there as well because it's really cool. And the fact that it's not just in the United States, you can take classes all around the world if you sign up for that. So almost, most countries you can actually sign up on outschool.com. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's so exciting. It sounds like we need to get in on that as well. Yeah. Cedric says, whoa, I just saw a picture of a whip spider. That thing looks crazy.
It does. And you know what? I don't have, that one's about to molt, so I don't have access to that one right now. But they're ambly pig-eye, or ambly pie-eye, it depends on who you're talking to. But they are a very, very cool. I don't know if you guys have one or not, but they are, they're related to spiders and scorpions. They are an arachnid, but they're not that dangerous. They're pretty mellow. I do have somebody else that's kind of spooky for you to see later on that's also an arachnid, but they are just incredibly, just the weirdest things. And I did hear that Harry Potter actually has a character in the movie that they made based off of that arachnid. There's something in there. I can't remember. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. I know I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. They like it, but
I got you. Are you talking about when they did the Cruciatus curse on the whip? Was it a whip scorpion or whip spider? I don't remember in the movie, but
so it's a tailless whip spider, and then there's also the whip scorpion, and they get confused a lot, but they're not the same animal at all. So
I'm trying to remember which one was in the movie. We'll have to look back at that. An excuse to watch them again. Would you like to get started by showing us some animals?
Sure. Since we're already kind of talking about that one, what do you think? Should we start with something a little creepy crawly?
I think Ricky wants to see some creepy crawly.
Creepy crawlies! Oh, and then the heart.
So underrated.
I know, just like with our children, we're not supposed to have favorites. I don't have a favorite, but I do have a favorite with my arthropods. So arthropods, again, something without a backbone, without a spine, has their bones on the outside, and unfortunately, something that people usually see and they scream and they yell and they get scared and they think it's totally dangerous. But this animal, even though it looks super duper creepy crawly, is actually a completely harmless little girl, and she is one of my favorites. So this here is Vinny, and they're pretty much all called Vinny, but she is a vinegaroon. They're also called whip scorpions because if you look back right here, right on this little part right here, right where a scorpion would have a stinger or a telson, she has just something called a flagellum. And at the base of that flagellum, she actually has a little gland, and that gland sprays something called acetic acid. There's some other chemicals in there too to help it make it nice and sticky and oily so it sticks to a predator that might want to eat them. But if you've ever made Easter eggs or done a science experiment with vinegar, it smells really, really bad. So they will actually spray that acetic acid right into the face of a predator who's trying to eat them. And it is their main way of protecting themselves. Now they do have those little pinchers right there in the front. You can kind of see they look kind of like crab or lobster pinchers. They don't really use those for much. They can't really pinch me with them. I mean, she could try, but it's not really going to hurt that much. Instead, they use those pinchers just for holding onto their foods. So they like to eat things like bugs, really, really like to eat bugs, and they'll hold onto it with those pinchers, and then they have little chelicera, just like you would see on a spider, and they use that chelicera to just kind of pull apart the food. So these guys are super duper cool, and they're one of my favorite animals to bring out for my creepy crawly presentations because they have that scare factor and they seem really, really creepy, but again, they're super harmless. And I have held things like scorpions and tarantulas and everything like that, but these guys are by far my favorite arachnid or spider relative to work with. Now she has some really cool arms in the front. If you can look really carefully, they look kind of like antenna, those long pieces right there. I don't know how the light is picking up, but I hope you guys can see those long parts right there. They look kind of like antenna, but those are actually their legs. So if we count, they actually do have 8 legs, and those count as a pair of legs. But rather than being something that they use for walking across the ground, they use those specifically as sensory organs. So I like to tell the kids, imagine you're walking in a dark room. What do you do with your arms? You go like this, right? You put your arms out in front of you and you feel around, so you don't like into a door, right? So they use those long legs to just kind of feel and touch and taste the ground. So these guys are usually out at night. They're usually nocturnal. So I kind of woke her up from a little bit of a nap. So they do use those arms as sensory organs to kind of feel and touch and taste the ground. And they do have eyes, just like all like spiders. And you can kind of, if you remember spiders, they either have 6 to 10 eyes, just depending on the species. She does have eyes on the top of her head, but she can't see all that well. So instead, she's definitely going to use those arms to kind of touch the ground, feel the ground, everything like that. So again, these are just such an amazing animal. Now you would find these guys in southwestern United States, but there are quite a few different types of vinegaroons. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but for the most part, they're all pretty mellow. They don't want to hurt you. They don't want to mess with you. And what they do when they get scared, I actually had a younger one that's going to be a display animal only. I have another baby over there, but he was a great animal for showing how they kind of go in their defensive pose. And it's kind of a weird like yoga thing. So they'll put their pedipalps like right up in the air, and then they take their abdomen right back here, that round part, and they'll stick it straight up, and they're just kind of like showing you that they have it. And it was for an animal that I know can't really do that much other than just be super smelly. It's intense. It's impressive. You look at it, you're like, okay, buddy, chill, you know? So they are a super cool animal, and I love it. So the mom will actually, I had one a while ago that actually had an egg case. And one cool thing that I had never known about these guys is they can actually hold onto the sperm sac. They can hold onto it for up to a year. And so they can delay implantation or delay fertilization of their eggs. So I had her for 9 months, and then she went underground. I was like, where'd she go? You know? And then I looked at the bottom of the cage, and she had dug a burrow, and she had a full egg case underneath. And so they'll actually lift up their abdomen, this part, they'll lift up their abdomen, kind of keep it up, and the egg case will be right underneath it. And they'll just hold onto it and protecting it, staying underground until the eggs hatch out. And then just like you've seen maybe with spiders or scorpions, a lot of the scorpions will hold the babies on top of their abdomen right there. So they'll hitch a ride on mom until she eat something, and then they come off and they eat the food and usually steal all of her food, so she's super duper hungry. And then after their first molt, they're off on their own. So they're just, I think that these are, I know, like I said, not supposed to have a favorite, but Vinny here, she's by far one of my favorite arachnids. Look at that. Isn't she cool?
That's amazing. So they kind of use their, well, their legs. They're kind of like feelers, right?
Yeah.
But they are one of their sets of legs, per se?
Yeah, they are. They are definitely legs. They're not antenna. They are full legs. They're just used as sensory organs. So if you go through like the anatomy and genetic aspect of it, they are actually legitimate legs. They're just used for a different purpose. They're not used to put actual weight on and move on. So pretty weird, huh?
That's fascinating. I've never handled or worked with a vinegaroon before. I've seen them, but I'm learning a ton of stuff right now. I'm so
excited. They're so cool. I actually I talked through my friend Jessie with Animal Wonders in Montana, who's another excellent facility. If you haven't heard of them, they're great.
I have.
So she got a vinegaroon. She called me up. She's like, Rachel, talk me through it. How do I work with this one? So I showed her mine, and we kind of talked about them and stuff. And so she has one now. She teaches with them, and I'm always telling people, I'm like, vinegaroons are like the most underrated of all the arachnids to work with. People like just don't even think of them and know about them, but they are super duper cool. And you can actually see on my Instagram feed, I have a really good close-up of my juvenile eating. So you can see the chelicera, you can see those mouth parts actually ripping into a mealworm. So, you know, maybe don't look at it if you're eating, but if you just want to see something really cool, it's a really good close-up photo of their mouth parts actually eating, and it's just a super cool thing to see. So this is a brand new camera. Sorry guys, I hope that you can actually see them.
No, it looks great. No, that's super cool. I just had my African flat rock scorpion on our last program on Wednesday. She's my favorite. Don't tell the other arachnids that I have, but she's my favorite arthropod that we have just because she's so big and impressive and amazing.
I saw the picture. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yes. I love her, but I had a video on there as well during the live stream that I love to show of her using her chelicerae mouth parts eating a roach, which is pretty cool. I love that. I think you're making some of our audience members sick, but that's okay. And we're also laughing. Very, very good. Let's see. I think I have some questions here. Oh, Amanda says, hey, Amanda, it says zoologists are rock stars. Thank you very much. Yes, we are.
You're a rock star. You're a rock star.
And so are you, Amanda. Yes. Does she molt her exoskeleton?
Excellent question. So yes, just like all arachnids, they will molt their exoskeleton. Now, she's putting her little her pinchers out right there. So yeah, they do. And when they're younger, as they're growing faster, they will molt more often. So what they do is they go underground where it's a little bit safer, where less predators are going to find them, and they'll stay under there and they'll wait and they'll wait and they'll wait. And I've had them underground for 3 months at a time until they actually molt their exoskeleton, and then it just kind of sits there and everything molts off. So even just like with a lot of spiders, when they molt, if they have to regrow a limb, they can slowly start to do that as well, which is really, really fascinating that an animal can do that. But yes, they do molt their exoskeletons, but as they get to become an adult, just like other arachnids, just like tarantulas and stuff like that, they tend to molt less frequently. So rather than doing it a couple, every few months with like they would when they're juveniles, they'll start to do it maybe once every few years. Because again, we have to keep in mind that molting is a dangerous process, and it's also time consuming, so they can't eat, and it can be, really high stress. That's when an animal can go through a lot of problems. So they're only going to do it if they absolutely have to. So she probably won't molt again because she is full grown, but my youngster over there will keep molting many more times because he's already about 1.5 years and he's still only about this big. So,
super cool. We have another good question from Viviana, one of our followers. Are these animals found in the desert climate?
So these guys are typically found in more deserty areas. However, they have been introduced as an invasive species in parts of Florida. So if you're talking animal husbandry, nothing is ever 100% correct. We're always learning. We're always changing new things as we should. Now, some people will keep these guys in a more misted area, but because they also live in deserty areas, sometimes people don't. So I kind of put it in the middle and I mist them every once in a while. So they are generally found in more deserty areas, but they can be found in more humid environments. And keep in mind, there's also different subspecies or different species of vinegaroon. So this happens to be just called the giant vinegaroon, but there are different vinegaroons as well. Some of them are found in more rainforesty areas.
Awesome. I didn't know that either. And Vivian also really loves your enthusiasm. Even though she's creeped out by creepy crawlies, she's one of our very, very loyal followers. And she always tells me, she's like, I'm fascinated, but I'm a little scared, but I'm learning. You know what I mean? So that's
I think that's how it should be. I always teach my kids in all of my programs. Sometimes we don't know how we feel about animals, or maybe sometimes animals make us a little uncomfortable. But the more we learn about an animal, the more we can appreciate it. And that goes with anything that you're afraid of. Learning a little bit more makes it not so scary after all, and you can kind of see the exciting good parts about it.
Oh, here's an excellent question. Do they exhibit sexual dimorphism?
Ooh, excellent question. I love those questions. No, they do not. They're not sexually dimorphic with this species. The only way that you can really tell is if you flip them over, which I'm not going to do to her. You can kind of look at the abdomen. You can see the shape there. There's a little bit of kind of triangular shape and some dents here and there. Or you can do what I did and then just magically have an egg case after 9 months of having it. So I found out that one was a female. But I can't just look at them. We were talking about the tailless whip spider earlier with the one that's in Harry Potter. Those ones usually are sexually dimorphic because those front arm pieces that you see, the males tend to have longer ones. So the front, like the elbow, if you will, sticks out past that first or the second limb that you're seeing. But with these guys, you're not going to be able to like look at the pedipalps with, you know, an untrained eye, look at it and be like, that's a boy. You can't really do that with these guys. Some people that know a lot about them and have maybe breed them and spend a lot of time day in, day out just staring at these guys might be able to be like, I have a feeling that is a male or a female. But other than that, they're not sexually dimorphic at all.
Awesome. That's similar to like maybe like a snake or something like that. Most snakes aren't really sexually dimorphic, but if you're an expert, you might be able to lift up the tail and see a few differences and maybe some hips there, here and there. And
exactly. And I personally, I personally don't claim to be an expert in any one of the animals that I work with or any animals in general. I am more of a look at this animal, isn't it amazing? You should be excited, you should want to protect it type of person. So I will not claim to be an expert in any of these guys.
Fair enough, but you have learned a lot of things, I'm sure. That you
and I'm always learning more.
I
love learning more.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about our jobs is learning all the time. Let's meet an invertebrate that I have. I have another arachnid friend that I brought. And here she comes. Does your vinegaroon have a name? Oh, yeah, it said Vinny.
Vinny, as every single vinegaroon is. Right. Yeah, unfortunately, most of my names are pretty clever. That one, I kind of got lazy on that one.
So this here is one of my favorite spiders that we have, and they're all my favorite, right? They're like children, but I do have a few extra special ones that I really love to bring on programs. This is Tiptoes. Her name is Tiptoes, and she's, of course, a pink-toed tarantula. This is an Antilles pink-toed tarantula, and these guys are found in Central and South America, of course. There are different types of subspecies of pink-toed tarantula. They used to be categorized differently, but now they're in the, what do you call it, the versicolor category. The pink-toed tarantulas, there's several different kinds. But my point is, they are, of course, tarantulas. They are arboreal tarantulas, though. Most tarantulas that we know here in the United States and in the Americas in general are actually terrestrial, so being on the ground. But this one, as you can see, is very good at climbing straight up my hand and down my hand. So they're actually an arboreal species, which is super cool. Are the vinegaroons terrestrial?
Terrestrial, full terrestrial, yeah.
Okay, and subterrestrial?
Actually, all of my arachnids are terrestrial.
Very cool. We have a little bit of both. I love the arboreal species. They're really fun to watch climb. As you can see, they're really, really active, and you can see how they move. Of course, they do have 8 legs and 2 pedipalps as well. I like to call them arm-like appendages or pedipalps, which some people also call them mouth parts, which is technically right next to the mouth, so that's fine too. And they also have chelicerae. But when it comes to being a spider, they have fangs attached to their chelicerae, which are venomous. So this is a venomous animal. But of course not toxic to humans, really, not significantly toxic. If she were to accidentally bite me or feel defensive and want to bite, I would be just fine. So don't worry, anybody out there. I think they are absolutely so beautiful. One of my very favorite animals, and very misunderstood, aren't they?
As most arachnids are.
Yes, I had a comment earlier. I wanted to highlight that as well. This is, I guess, replying to Donna. I thought they were the deadliest ones. I don't know which ones you're referring to. Maybe the vinegaroon, but most of these guys really aren't significantly harmful to humans whatsoever. In fact, I know
I wouldn't say any of them are deadly. Unless you're
and there's a couple that are significantly venomous for sure. We definitely not go outside and just pick everything up unless you're some kind of herpetologist, entomologist. We're not talking to you guys. We're talking to the average person. I guess I can speak for both of us when we don't encourage you guys to just go grab animals. If you don't know what you're doing, please don't do that. Leave them alone. They deserve to also be left alone in their home.
100%, yes.
And if you're nervous around them, that's okay. We're always learning about them. I'm nervous around wild cockroaches, like she mentioned earlier. But I just kind of leave them alone when I can. And that's what we encourage you guys to do as well. So if you see a spider in your home or outside in your backyard, we want to make sure and leave them alone because they're super duper important to the natural environment. And they are predators in their small ecosystem. They're a top predator in that ecosystem. And they do us a big favor by getting rid of a ton of bugs, which can actually make us sick through disease and even parasites too. And Lord knows we don't need any more diseases going on in the natural world or otherwise. So we need as many predators taking care of those insects as we can have. So leaving them alone is the best thing you can do.
For sure. The versicolor, I feel like that whole grouping of tarantulas is my favorite grouping of tarantulas. They're just, it seems like every single one of them is just beautiful.
I agree. I love them too. I think they're the most beautiful. Another one of my favorites is another species that we do have, but we don't often show. It's going to be the Goody Sapphire tree-dwelling tarantula. We do have one of those. It's a critically endangered species, but they're not good for handling. They are actually pretty toxic. They wouldn't kill you, but it would hurt if you got bitten. But they are, we keep them on display sometimes. And we also have a Venezuelan sun tiger that we have on display sometimes as well. But it's hard to show under the lights because of the reflections and things. Yeah, Tiptoes. Tiptoes is here. Yes, everybody loves Tiptoes. I love her name. All right.
I love that.
Cool. And of course, these guys are pretty hairy. That's how they can sense, movement and everything like that, even if they are in the dark. That goes for all tarantulas. Just like the vinegaroon with the pseudo leg feeler thingies. What do you call those?
They're just sensory organs or sensory legs. Okay. There's probably another name for them, but it's not something that I've ever bothered to learn because it's not something that I would tell a group of children because it's sensory legs. That's what's going to make sense.
I feel that. Most of our audience isn't going to remember those sort of things anyway. It's nice for us to know, though, but I just wondered if you knew. That's totally fine. I don't know either. But these guys have just hair all over their bodies that they use for sensing vibrations and sensing kind of the world around them. In fact, that is their primary sense. These guys do have 8 eyes, but they don't see very good. In fact, they don't see very well at all. They don't see color, and they just kind of see some shadows and movement. And their hair helps them to kind of figure out what's going on through feeling vibrations and everything else. Pretty awesome. In fact, they're so sensitive that they can feel like a prey animal, like a moth flying over them, and they can jump right out and grab that moth with their usually their front legs and their pedipalps. They'll usually grab them, and then they'll bite with their fangs, of course. They'll inject venom. And a tarantula cannot chew their food, so they have to inject venom and then wait for their food to liquefy on the inside like a vampire, and then they'll drink it up like a bug smoothie. Yum. That's how they eat. Delicious, yes. Does anybody have any questions about her?
Has she ever kicked her hairs on that species?
No, she hasn't. My Arizona blonde sometimes does that just when I'm retrieving her out of her habitat. She never does it like in front of anybody or anything like that. It's just the initial pickup. She's like, how are you? And she's like, oh, hey. And then she's fine. But she's
I can tell you, it does get very itchy. I've had some of those urticating hairs on me when I was cleaning some old tanks, and it was like a huge rash all over my body, those urticating hairs. It was my fault. I didn't think about it when I was cleaning out the donated tanks, but luckily I haven't had it with any of my
Yeah, it's part of the job. We have a lot of hazards, small and big. Let's see. We have a question here. Do these tarantulas shed their skin? They do molt as well. And similarly to the vinegaroon, they're going to molt more often as they're growing up. Tiptoes here she's not super young, but she's also not super old either. So she's probably going to molt a few more times in her lifetime. She's probably due for one because, to be honest with you, as pretty as she is, she's actually looking kind of dull these days. So I'm expecting her to molt anytime, which is going to be really exciting because they tend to not double their size, but close to it every time they molt, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. I'm excited about that. But yes, they do. They do molt periodically as they grow. They have to. Just like humans change clothes as we grow up, they're going to change their exoskeleton as they grow up, which is pretty awesome. I wish I could just start all over every time I grew, I guess. Brand new me. Brand new her in this case. Pretty awesome.
She's so pretty.
Thank you. I love them.
I'm going to get really close to the camera and people are going to be like looking at my nose. I'm like looking at her.
Oh, there she goes. Super cool. Well, do you want to move on to another animal category? Let's do that.
Sure. Let's do reptiles because you have a reptile that I really, really love. But first I want to show you one that is often confused. Or not, the reptile's not confused. He's not confused. I'm asking questions. He's just a reptile. But people see him and they think that he's a snake. And
Yes.
I'm telling you guys, nature. So when we categorize animals and we think of animals, we grew up like the cow says moo, the cat says meow, and snakes don't have legs, lizards do. But this is, went to the bathroom. He is right here. This here is Mr. Wigglesworth, and he is in fact not a snake, even though we don't see any legs on him. He is in fact a legless lizard, and they go by a few different names. They go by Russian legless lizard, they go by Eurasian legless lizard, they even go by something called sheltopusik, and if anybody speaks Russian, I'm sorry if I butchered that, but basically it means yellow belly. And if we look really closely, they do kind of have a little bit of a yellow belly. Now, these guys are found here all throughout Europe, and they're found in parts of Asia. So I usually call it a Russian legless lizard because that's just what I was always trained to talk about. But again, they do go by a few different names. They're also called glass lizards. And that's because of their ability to break off parts of their tail. Now, if anybody's seen a lizard maybe in their backyard that was missing part of a tail, many lizards, but not all, many lizards can do that. It's actually called caudal autotomy or autotomy. And it basically, they're able to drop off parts of their tail as a way of confusing predators. So that predator will then go for that little bit of a tail that's wiggling around on the ground, giving them a chance to run away to safety, or in his case, kind of wiggle away to safety. And these guys have evolved to life underground. And when I say that, I mean like they've literally evolved for it. So their ancestors from millions of years ago actually had legs. And we know that by looking at fossil records. And if we did an X-ray on the side of their body right here, you can actually see little nubs, little vestigial appendages. And we see that sometimes with certain snakes, those pelvic girdles, right? Where they can actually kind of move. They use them for mating sometimes. So they do have those vestigial appendages right there on either side of their cloaca, right about here, okay? But their ancestors had those legs and over time have evolved to live underground. And by having no legs, they're actually able to spin around very quickly under the soil just by using that corkscrew movement that he's kind of showing you guys right now, and how he also gets the name Mr. Wigglesworth, because I thought it was funny and it made me laugh, and that's really all that matters when I name my animals. So yeah, so he's actually designed to live underground. He also has ear holes that can kind of close up a little bit. And so the difference between a snake and a lizard, the easiest way to kind of differentiate the two isn't whether or not they have legs, obviously. It's whether or not they have eyelids and ear holes. So I'm going to kind of step out of the frame a little bit because my camera is brand new and it really likes to focus on my face. But I want you guys to focus on his face if he'll hold still. He actually does have ear holes and he has eyelids. So he can blink at you. And I like to tell the kids never, ever, 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 ever challenge a snake to a staring contest because you'll lose. Because snakes don't have eyelids, but lizards do. So he does, in fact, have those ear holes right there on the side, and he does have eyelids. Now, these guys are also designed to eat snails and slugs, and their bite is pretty impressive, and they can actually break right through the snail shell. Now, I, being the excellent animal keeper that I am, spend lots of money on some special snails and slugs that are perfect for reptiles. Don't have any like salt in them, don't have any preservatives, and he wouldn't eat them. Like at all, wouldn't even touch them. So, yay. So he just likes to eat super worms and crickets and roaches. But with any type of reptile, with any animal, variety is the key to a healthy animal. So we do try to mix things up a bit for him. But unfortunately, he doesn't like to eat what he is natively supposed to eat. But luckily, out in the wilds, they will still eat things like bird eggs, and they'll eat small other invertebrates and stuff like that too. So luckily it's not just snails and slugs, but he is such a cool animal. Just the fact that he doesn't have any legs, but also that glass tail aspect that he can actually break off. And we do have legless lizards here in North America, but they're much smaller. They're not as easy to work with. These guys get very large, and as you can see, they're a little bit more active and easy to work with. So I think that they're just such a cool, weird animal, a weird reptile that a lot of people don't think of as a lizard, but it is in fact a lizard. He usually is in that enclosure right there. And what's funny is when I'm doing my animal presentations, particularly for some reason my outschool shows, he's at the glass watching the whole thing. I don't know why, but he just sits there and he stares at me, and it's like, I always feel like somebody's watching me. But yeah, it's totally, that's his thing. He likes to stare at me like a creeper. So yeah, so he's pretty cool. Again, he's a Russian legless lizard or Eurasian legless lizard or sheltopusik or glass lizard, all of those things. It works. And their name is actually, what is it? Apodus something or other, but it basically means false leg, which I think is pretty neat. So yeah.
I knew them as sheltopusik as well. So that's
yes. They're often confused with the Pallas lizard, which also kind of goes by glass lizard as well. They are another type of legless lizard, but they have much pointier snouts. They're a little bit smaller. You don't see them as much in wildlife education as you do this sheltopusik or Russian legless lizard. Pretty cool.
Love it. I have a whole bunch of questions about him already. Everybody loves him.
I love questions.
Named him like Mr. Creeper or something like that.
I should have. That would have been good.
Oh, here's
a good
question from before. Can you read it?
I have seen certain animals eat their shed. Yes. So when the animals do ecdysis, if you think about what they're shedding something that is a protein. It's keratin, but it's a protein. So a lot of like cockroaches and stuff will actually eat their exoskeleton as a way of recycling those nutrients. In fact, my cockroaches will sometimes actually feed snake sheds because it's another just source of interesting protein that they would get out in the wild, being decomposers. With the arachnids, because all arachnids or all spiders, other than that one, there's one variety of jumping spider that actually eats nectar. But other than that, all spiders are carnivores. So they're all going to eat meat, but they're not necessarily going to eat their exoskeleton. Now, I could be wrong. Amanda, you might be able to correct me on that, but I have never heard of a spider eating its exoskeleton. It's just not something that they would actually go for because they can't chew their food. They have to actually rely on their venom to break it down and turn it into that smoothie. So I don't know.
I've never heard of that or seen that. I've definitely seen it with roaches, but roaches kind of eat everything. So, I mean, it makes sense to geckos eat their sheds as well.
Yes.
Do. So I totally know what he's talking about. Great question. And then Nick is really excited. So glass lizard, right on cue. Wonderful. And he loves Mr. Wigglesworth. And he's saying,
hello. Somebody loves you. I kiss you, but you bet my face off. Just kidding.
What's that?
I said, I kiss you, but you bet my face off.
Yeah. I kind of want to kiss a lot of my animals too, but we won't do that.
We don't recommend it. Don't use that sense. Just use
not
your eyes.
on camera.
I don't know.
And then, can they swim? That's a good question.
Oh, that's actually a really good question. And I don't know the answer to that. I would assume they could probably swim short distances, but it's not something that they will spend a lot of time doing. And there are quite a few snakes that can swim. There's quite a few lizards that can do that as well. But I have never seen him try to use his water dish other than just kind of soaking when it's time to do that ecdysis or that shedding, that molting. So that's a really good question. I don't know if my audio just cut out for a second there. Is it going still?
You're good.
Okay, I got a beep. So I don't know. And thank you for asking me that question because I guarantee you I will be researching that after this.
Yeah, I love those kind of questions that I'm like, wait, I don't know that. Let's look it up later and I'll get back to you. That's what I like to do. That is a good question. I don't know either. So very, very good. Any other questions about our sheltopusik friend, aka the glass lizard, aka the legless lizard, the Russian legless lizard? I also know them as the European legless lizard as well.
Yes, they also know by that. And that's actually when I first was presenting these with another company before I started Doodlebugs. I knew them as European legless lizard.
So how old is Mr. Wigglesworth?
So I got Mr. Wigglesworth. He was one of the early animals that I brought on here to Doodlebugs Animal Adventures. He wasn't full grown when I got him. So I would assume and I would estimate he's anywhere from 3 to 5 years old.
Okay.
So
not an old man yet.
Not an old man yet by any stretch of the imagination, no.
Very cool. I love him. That's why I was really excited that you had one. I was like, yes, bring that one. And I love snakes. Snakes are actually my favorite animals on the planet. I love how misunderstood they are and how we can educate everybody about them. But a lot of people mistake these guys for snakes, and you should never, ever harm a snake. But a lot of people do harm these guys as kind of in default because they think, oh my gosh, it's a snake and it's got a triangle-shaped head. It must be a viper, etc. I don't recommend getting close to wildlife to where you can see their eyes and their eyelids, but of course you can tell the difference by seeing if they wink at you or something like that. And it's funny too, because not all lizards have eyelids, but most lizards either have eyelids or ears. So
yes, yeah. And so that's one thing that I love to tell the kids is, we make these rules, these rough rules when we categorize animals, but then you get things like, oh, turtles spend their time in water and tortoises live on land. But there's always something, one animal that's like, I'm not doing that. So there's the diversity in the animal kingdom is amazing. It's astounding. And I think that there's always variations, there's always things to learn. And that's one of the things I love so much about this job, that think of the echidna, think of the platypus, like animals are breaking the rules all the time, right?
Amazing. I love weird animals.
Right. So we make those generalizations, but that's exactly what they are. They're just generalizations.
Yeah. And then when we make those assumptions or whatever, the animals go, just kidding. There's one of these ones.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. Mr. Wiggles spied log day 4. The snakes have not realized I am among them. The mission is going smoothly so far. Smooth as glass, I would say.
Smooth as glass.
Are they called glass lizards? Are they called glass lizards because they're smooth, or is it because they can lose their tail? Because it's because of that caudal autonomy. It's because of their ability to actually break off parts of their tail. It's kind of said that their tail breaks like glass. It doesn't really shatter like glass like that, but that's just kind of what people have said about it. I see. That's just interesting to me because they're not the only lizards that lose their tail.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. And then you even look at things like the gecko family, where some geckos can lose their tail and it'll grow back and other geckos can't. So again, nothing is concrete with animals. Nothing is set. But yeah, they can break off their tail. I've actually never seen one that has dropped its tail, but it is one of their adaptations that they can do out in the wild to survive for sure.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's
kind of look like glass, don't they?
Yeah, let's meet another lizard while you have your lizard out. You can put him away. That's fine. He's either way. Right?
I'm gonna actually put him back because he just had a reptile show for Out School right before we did this, so he is ready to just kind of take a breather, take a rest. But while you're over there finding your animal, should I just break out to some random dance?
I did an early morning program this morning, and I definitely needed a nap after that. Before that, so here, you guys ready to meet another lizard? Here it comes.
You can't tell. I love tegus. I love them.
Who doesn't love tegus? They're super cool. So this happens to be a female Colombian black and white tegu, and her name is Lulu the tegu. She started life with us. We thought maybe she was a boy. We didn't know because she was a lot smaller than this. So this is about 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years ago, and a little bit smaller, so we didn't know the gender yet, so I started calling her my lizard Lou, and then I thought it was a boy, so we just kept Lulu instead. So gender fluid. And speaking of lost tail, so when we received her as a rescue, she actually did not have that portion of the tail there that you see that is white. Can you guys see that? That is a regenerated tail. It's actually a pretty decent regenerated tail. It's pretty streamlined. If you have ever seen lizard regrow their tail, a lot of times they're a little bit funky looking. The only thing that happened was it became white, which is very interesting to me because I've never seen that happen. I have seen it happen to be solid black, but I guess for whatever reason, the tail decided to grow back white, which I find so weird. It's got some spots on it though, so not too bad, not too bad. But she came to us as a rescue. We don't know her age, but she was quite a bit younger than this. So she was still a young lizard, a juvenile, if you will. She might get a little bit wiggly with us too. Maybe she's Mrs. Wigglesworth. Oh my goodness. We'll just let her I always tell the kids, I'm like, she's fine. We just don't want to restrain her. Obviously, we just kind of let them walk all over our hands. But anyway, she came to us from the wilds of Dallas, Fort Worth. These guys are a Central and South American animal. They're not from Texas. So we know that she was either somebody's released pet or an escaped pet, or an escaped breeder's animal, etc. Calm down. Goodness gracious. Usually throws a little fit and then she settles right down. Are you done? But she was quite the wild woman when we picked her up from a humane society over there in Dallas when we used to live out there. And somebody actually called me up and said, hey, are you interested in an Argentine tegu? And I said, yes, of course I am. I will come get that lizard immediately because I was already looking for one, which is kind of fun. And I got there and I was like, oh, actually, that's a Colombian tegu, but I will obviously still adopt her. That's perfectly fine. She didn't have a tail. She was quite skinny at the time. So we think that she was out for a significant amount of time because they don't lose weight very fast. These guys can typically maintain their body weight just fine as long as they're eating every now and then. And speaking of eating, these guys are omnivores. Are the Sheltopusik omnivores too?
They're more carnivores. Yeah, they more like to eat the snails, the slugs, the insects. In fact, I don't think anybody, I mean, I think in the animal husbandry world, some people may give them some plant matter, but as far as science can tell so far, there's still more to learn about those guys, but what scientists believe is they're more carnivorous, maybe a little bit opportunistic here and there with the plants, but for the most part, they're going to be going for meat.
For me, got you. I thought so, but I couldn't remember. It's been a minute since I worked with them. The only time I worked with, well, not the only time, but the last time I worked with them was actually at school over at Santa Fe College Teaching Zoo in Florida. But anyway, these guys are pretty awesome. Everybody loves a tegu. They are just so charismatic. They're one of the most intelligent reptiles in all of the reptiles. They learn a lot. Some people say they can even learn almost like a dog can learn. And that's another really cool thing to talk about with reptiles, because a lot of people don't, A, think they have a personality, and B, they don't think that they can learn, or are they intelligent, but nothing could be further from the truth. These guys are super smart. In fact, I swear, one time I literally was just talking to her and she understands. Like, this is like the weirdest story. So one time she was in shed, because these guys do shed, of course, and they shed in pieces and molt their epidermis layer off just like a snake does, but usually in pieces instead of all in one piece like a gecko or a snake does. But anywho, she was in really deep shed one day. And I said, you know what, Lulu, if you just get in your water dish and have a nice soak, it'll be a lot easier for you to shed. And she goes, okay. And then she literally gets into her water dish and soaks herself. Now, I don't know if that was coincidental, but I don't know. It was
I'm just gonna go with that. You're an amazing animal trainer, and she knew. Like you're just Dr. Doolittle to me right now. So that's why.
Thank you. Well, who knows? But either way, I know they're very, very intelligent. She learned pretty quickly to trust people. She was definitely not trusting people at first because they had to catch her up and everything like that. I believe animal control caught her up. They told me that's when she lost her tail, unfortunately, because they do drop their tail when they feel threatened, of course. It's a great survival technique, but it's not something they want to use all the time because it's a lot of work to regenerate the tail. It takes a long time. It took her about a year to regenerate it fully, which is, it's a lot of work on their bodies. It sometimes stunts their growth because their body is putting a lot of energy into regrowing that body part as opposed to growing up. But she's perfectly fine because she lives with us. She doesn't have to worry about being in the wild and, of course, getting picked off by a predator during that process. But yeah, they're wonderful lizards. I know you like tegus. So what do you like about them?
So I've mostly worked with the reds. So they've got those big jowls. They're just so beautiful. But I do completely 100% agree with you on the personality aspect. And if you talk to any type of owner or breeder or whatever, or even the zoo field, education field, so many of us say that they are like dogs. Like they bond with you. They are very friendly, if you will, and they definitely sometimes will seek out that human interaction, which is not the norm with most reptiles. Well, any animal, like we like to say, even a goldfish can be trained. Any animal can be trained, so long as they understand the language, the training language, and you find what they want and you reinforce that. But these guys seem to actually seek out that positive interaction, which is kind of crazy. Now, that being said, I am not a huge proponent for people getting them as pets. I think that these are not a beginner pet. They are not an animal that just anybody should go to the pet store and pick up, particularly because when you get them, they're about yay big. They're pretty tiny, and then they don't stay tiny. So I always tell people, do your research before you get any type of animal, because you will be responsible for that animal for the rest of your life, for the rest of its life. But I think that they are beautiful. I think that they are highly intelligent. I agree with you on that. I think that there's the bond you can have with one. And then as a wildlife educator, I do love those wow animals that can get people excited about nature and excited about the world around them. And tegus are one of those educational, those animal ambassadors that people just see and they're like, oh, you know? So that's one of the things I love about them. I would love to get one, but unfortunately here at Doodlebugs, I am limited on my space. So I probably will never take one on, because this guy, my big Colombian boa, will be getting in the next few weeks an 8-foot long tank that I'm making. Yes. Yay. So he's going to get a huge upgrade, and that's going to eat up a lot of my space here in the animal room. So, but I love them. I love them.
I totally feel you. We are planning in the future to have like some kind of property and things like that, but these lizards definitely need a lot of space.
Yes.
So even a Colombian, which is not nearly as large as an Argentine tegu, she's also a female, which helps a little bit too. She's not as big as a male would be. They are definitely sexually dimorphic. Somebody is asking, I can't highlight their comment because I've got my hands full. It says, is there a certain species that gets the really big swollen neck, or is it a gender thing? So I believe all of them. The Colombian's not as extreme, but definitely the Argentines and the Reds and all those guys, they the males get the big jowl. So they have great big giant cheeks that looks like they are full of the most bubble gum you could possibly imagine sticking in your mouth. But it is mostly the males. So the males actually have those big jowls, and there's a couple of reasons why. Number one is to impress those ladies. They have the bigger the jowls, the more excited she's going to get about having that boyfriend. But also, it's going to be for battling each other. So the males will actually bite one another and fight pretty severely for the ladies, and that also impresses the ladies too. So they're just, I guess, standing by like, yes, fight for me. But and, she's, I guess, the referee and the judge. They will go for the throat, and having a big fat throat is going to help them not get bitten to where it's so severe and it vitally injures them in something vital, if that makes sense. It's similar to a lion's mane. That's actually what a lion's mane is for too. So when a lion is fighting with another lion, yeah, they're similar that way. So when a male lion is fighting with another male lion, and maybe that other male lion has less of a mane, he is more likely to have a very severe neck bite because there's hardly any protection there, right? So it's really similar, pretty cool. But yeah, it is. You're not wrong, Cedric. It's on the neck and the cheeks, so it's you're totally right. But it is a gender thing too. Very good question. Look at her go. I love their smooth skin. They're one of the few type of lizards that don't really change color either. They do change as they grow up. And a lot of lizards and snakes do that. As they mature, they're going to, of course, shed their skin, right? And as they shed, sometimes they will change color. These guys have a different color when they're babies, and then eventually they just look like this. Where are you going, ma'am? Just like, I'm out of here. Settle down. I thought you were falling asleep earlier, and now she's ready to roll. But they don't change color like at will, like a lot of lizards do. Some lizards do change color by, of course, the temperature and their mood and to communicate and things like that. These guys don't. And I believe the legless lizard is like that too. I don't think they change color either today. So they're kind of similar that way, aren't they? Pretty neat. Same thing with like skinks. Skinks and legless lizards are similar too. And yeah. She's got ears too, like we were talking about with most lizards. Not all lizards have ears. Did you know that?
Yeah, but again, making the generalization.
So like chameleons don't have ears, so that's pretty cool. But these guys have their ears. They can hear great. They can see great. They've got eyelids. They've got a great sense of smell, which they use via the tongue. They have a forked tongue, kind of like a snake. It's much bigger than a snake's tongue, but similar in its function. And they can taste, well, they smell the air, I should say, and use their Jacobson's organ too, like a lot of lizards and snakes have too. They have a special
the legless lizard will do that too. The legless lizard does have, but it's not quite as forked. It's not as bifurcated as you would see in a snake or that a lot of those lizards, tegus, and monitors. Instead, there's just kind of like a lobe. It's kind of like you took a heart and just kind of have a little heart part. But they do still use that Jacobson's organ as well.
Awesome. They're kind of like a iguana has that too. They have kind of like a partially like heart-shaped tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. But yeah, we love her story as well because it educates people on, number one, if you are not ready for these kind of animals, you should definitely not adopt them. But you should also be responsible if you end up getting one and you realize I've made a mistake. You should never release them into the wild of Dallas. Where are you going? She is wiggly today, just like your Mr. Wigglesworth. But anyway, relax. I promise she loves being here. Woo! She's dancing. She just wants to stay down and run around. You're fine. I promise. Relax. Yes. There we go. That little sigh helps me out to know that.
Does she have any type of thing that she really likes to eat, like quail eggs or any favorite?
Eggs in general are her absolute favorite. In fact, if I need her to eat something else for me, all I have to do is crack an egg over it and mix it all up, and she'll love it up. Eggs are definitely her favorite food. But yeah, we like to encourage people, if you ever do have a pet that you need to rehome, make sure you do that responsibly. Please don't release them into the wild or the city or anywhere. We also love to teach about invasive species, because these guys are invasive in Florida right now and some other places, mostly the Argentine tegus, but also Colombians too. That's a major issue.
Unfortunately, Florida is kind of like the
hub,
the breeding ground of invasives. It's
apparently. Yeah, a lot of animals do really well. Yeah, a lot of animals do really well in Florida because of the climate. But all over the world, we have invasive species, and that's one of my most passionate things to teach about, and why they are so destructive to our native wildlife that live out there.
Yes.
Pretty awesome.
Which is one reason why here in California, they're so restrictive on what I can have, because California is very protective of its native wildlife. So things like the hedgehog that I would love to teach with can become an invasive species and can do a lot of damage to the natural ecosystems that we have here. So because I have a degree in wildlife management, I have a love-hate relationship with the regulations here in California, because I completely understand it as an educator. There are so many things that I wish I could teach with, but at the same time, I don't want everybody else to be able to bring those animals into California. So it's hard for me as an educator / wildlife biologist to kind of reconcile the two, but I manage. Yeah,
and I will not complain, because our laws are strict too, but not as strict as California. So I guess I have it a little bit better than you. But again, I understand why some of the laws are restrictive, although there are some things that I wish they were just a little bit more lenient on with us professionals. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But I'm with you too. Love-hate relationship, because I get it. Yeah. But all right. Well, would we like to switch animal categories now?
Yes. So I have one that is another rescued animal. So just like you, I have a lot of animals here that were somebody's pet and were relinquished. I don't have any crazy stories of anybody being found, but quite a few of them come from certain backgrounds. And this one actually came to me from a family that has had this animal for many years, but after a while realized that they just couldn't give it the amount of care that it really needed. And unfortunately, this animal is also very common in the pet trade. People have them all the time, but they're not giving them the best life possible. So always, 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 like we've said a million times, and we will probably say a million times again, always do your research before you take on an animal. Know what that animal needs, figure out if that animal is a good fit for your lifestyle, and whether or not that animal will fit into your lifestyle, right? Yep. Think about the animal, okay? So this animal, fortunately, even though they had him as a pet for many years, they realized they couldn't take care of him anymore, so they donated him here to Doodlebugs, and he has been an amazing ambassador animal here. Now, I do teach quite a bit about conservation as well as extinction, and this is an animal that almost went extinct. It was almost lost from the planet forever, never to be seen again because of humans. Now, unfortunately, we'll talk about why, but this animal was almost hunted to extinction. And this here, he won't be out all that long, because I don't believe my chinchillas should be handled for very long periods of time. They do overheat quite a bit. They do get a little bit stressed. But this here is Toby, and Toby is a chinchilla, and they come from the Andes Mountains. You know, it gets about negative 23 degrees in the Andes Mountains. It gets very, very cold. So they have a couple of adaptations to help them survive in such a cold environment. Mainly, you can see that beautiful, thick fur coat. Now, we humans, as you know, Amanda, we have about 1 to 2 hairs per follicle on our arm, about 1 to 2 hairs. They have anywhere from 60 to 80 hairs per follicle. So they have incredibly thick fur. Their fur is actually the thickest and softest of any land mammal next to the otter. Okay, so their fur is very, very thick. Unfortunately, it's so thick and so soft that people like to turn them into hats and coats, and it takes about 200 chinchillas to make 1 fur coat. And I think it looks much better on him. So unfortunately, we almost lost him forever, but luckily an engineer came along in my program. I call him a scientist. He's still a scientist, but he was specifically an engineer. He went around, he fell in love with chinchillas. He thought they were amazing, but he also started to realize that they were becoming harder and harder to find. So he went on a many-year trek trying to do a study on these guys and find them. And I think he ended up only capturing like 9. He got permission from the government of Chile to capture chinchillas. After, I think it was like 5 years, he only found about 9 individuals, something crazy like that. But he brought them back to the United States and started a breeding program. But because of his efforts and because of him pointing out the fact that they were getting harder and harder to find, now chinchillas are protected out in the wild and you can't harm them. Now, that doesn't mean they're out of the clear. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of cows and grazing that are causing a huge problem with habitat destruction. Sorry, I have fur up my nose. So that happens at the end of every program. So unfortunately, they're still dealing with quite a bit of environmental problems. So they're not out of the clear. However, you can no longer hunt them out in the wild. Now, there are some breeding programs and stuff like that for it, but you can always get faux fur, right? You always can, right? So these guys are designed to live in a very cold area. So they have that thick fur, but if you look, even his tail is covered in really cute fur. Now, these guys also don't have nails, but they do come out at dawn and dusk, and they can jump about 9 feet in the air, like really high. So they're jumping from rock to rock. In fact, the area where they live is very rocky, and it's actually so high that it usually doesn't even snow there, but it's super duper cold. So they're able to hop around on those rocks, and they're eating lots of seeds and nuts and grasses, and they have been known to eat a couple of insects here and there, but predominantly they are more herbivores. So they like to eat mostly plants out in the wild. And he also has those really adorable cute whiskers. Look at those whiskers. And he uses those to kind of pick up where the rocks are, so he knows if he's going to fall off of something where he shouldn't be. But yeah, these are just such an amazing animal. I can't get over how soft they are, how cute they are. They are definitely a favorite in a lot of my presentations. He comes out in all of my Wild About Animals presentations. The kids love him when they're able to touch him during my live in-person presentations. And one thing that they notice after they touch him is their hand is really dusty after they touch him. And that's because their fur is so thick that, one, they can't really get any fleas or ticks or anything because it's really hard for the fleas to get through that. So they're kind of, you don't have to worry about any of that. But their fur is so thick, they also can't bathe themselves. They don't really get wet. If they were to get wet, it said that they'll get moldy. So instead, the way that they clean themselves is by rolling around in volcanic ash. So after I put him back in his enclosure, when I give him fresh ash, he rolls around in it. It's the most adorable thing. You can see it on my TikTok. I have a cute little video of him doing that. Yes, I'm on TikTok. I don't dance, though. I don't dance. Don't expect me to dance.
Oh, me neither.
But yeah, so he rolls around in that ash, and that's how they're going to absorb all of the dirt and the oils from all over their fur. So it's a really good way of keeping themselves clean. Now, he actually, one of the reasons why I don't recommend him as a pet, or chinchillas as a pet for most people, is because people get them in, they put them in these little cages, and they keep them there, and every once in a while they'll give them treats or they'll pet them or whatever. But these guys they're a prey animal. They're designed to move, and they move a lot. So he actually jumps and runs around my animal room every single night. So every night I come in here after my husband's starting to put the kids to bed. I come down here and I spend as much time with him as he needs. He runs around this whole room. His nickname is Toby Don't, because he tries to chew on everything. He tries to destroy everything. But that's okay, because that's natural for him, and everything that I have in here is safe for him. So he does definitely explore. He comes around every single night, and then he puts himself to bed once I've cleaned him out, given him fresh food, given him fresh enrichment in his enclosure, and he just kind of puts himself to bed, and that's that. But I definitely think that if people get chinchillas as a pet, they need to keep that in mind. That's not an animal to just stay in a cage 24/7. They're not designed to do that, and you're shortening their lifespan. You're not giving them enrichment that they need, the stimulation that they need. So kind of keep that in mind anytime you get any pet. Find out what's best for the animal. Unfortunately, his previous owners realized they could not give him that anymore. So now he has a home for life here, and he comes out every single night, and it's really fun for me too, because he's kind of adorable. But another thing that I do like to tell people about chinchillas, besides the fact that they're more nocturnal, crepuscular, they're not awake when we are, they don't want to cuddle when we want to play with them. But the males can also kind of pee a lot, and they'll like pee on the wall. And he doesn't do it, but I think it's because he gets out enough. But you got to keep that in mind, that sometimes they'll have some of those destructive behaviors if you're not giving them the attention and the stimulation that they really do require. So always do your research before you get any animal. Just because it's cute doesn't mean it's going to be a good pet. So I'm going to put him down. I'm going to let him run around the animal room right now.
That's fine.
So if you see him go parkour, or me going like this as he's like playing with my toys, that's what's going on. So he's going to run around a little bit.
Awesome. He reminds me a little bit of a couple of animals that we have here at Once in a Wild. We have hedgehogs and we have a rabbit. And rabbits, of course, are a very common household pet. But a lot of people rehome rabbits because they realize what they have gotten into. You can't really keep rabbits in a cage all the time. They need to have a lot of space, just like the chinchilla. Chinchillas can be in an enclosure sometimes. They probably should be. But having a lot of exercise is definitely a necessity for both of those animals. They're so active. And like a rabbit, honestly, it's 100 times easier to just keep them in a room with a litter box. It's so much easier. And people don't think of that. They think, oh, rabbit in a cage, rabbit in a cage. They've been told that all their life, or a hutch. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of things that we like to educate our audience as well with pet care, not just conservation and all the wonderful things that we talk about too, but it's important for people to understand how to take care of their own pets at home too. So we're very passionate about that as well. And sometimes people just shouldn't have certain animals or any animals. Some people have no time for any animals whatsoever. I know I have a ton of animals and I don't know how I have any time for anything else in my life, but that's okay. But that's what I've chosen for my life. But not everybody has that choice or that ability to do that. And it's not right for the animal. We have to make sure that the animal is also going to be in an appropriate situation. Also, chinchillas like cold weather, like you said. So a lot of people keep them like here in Texas and they can't keep them cool enough for them to be happy and healthy. That's a big challenge.
He doesn't go out. When I do my in-person presentations, when I'm going to a school or a library or a nature center, if it's going to be an outdoor event and it is over 75 degrees that day, he is not going to go. And I always tell people that because in my book, my number one priority, obviously, is getting people excited about nature and curious about nature, but I also have to keep the safety and the health of my animals in mind. So he doesn't go, and in here, he also doesn't do more than 2 presentations back to back because I personally feel like it's not really great for him. He starts to kind of not want to be held as much. Once I notice he starts to kind of wiggle his body and tell me he's not done or he's not liking it anymore, I listen to my animals. He's going to go back. I don't force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. And, you know, it's always important that we listen, just like with our family and friends and the people that we care about, we listen to our animals as well and listen to what they need.
Very, very responsible. We've got a few questions. I'm going to, and comments too. Let's see. Let's catch up. Let's see. I think for everybody tuning in with your questions, if you have any questions whatsoever, please go ahead and type them in. This is an interactive event, as always, and a Q&A for you guys. So this is your chance to ask us all the questions. We are here with Rachael from Doodlebugs Animal Adventures. In case you are just tuning in now, we do have our wonderful special guest, and she has been just great so far. So Ricky says, is it a Pokemon? And Viviana said, Rachael, yes, it is a Pokemon. How could someone hurt something so precious? Yeah, that happens a lot, unfortunately, out there in the natural environment. Humans are a little bit selfish as a species. So I like to say that a lot because we're another animal too, but we're a selfish animal. So we do a lot of damage to the natural environment and to our beautiful animals. And it's not necessarily with the intent at first to like wipe out a species. I'm sure that wasn't the intent, but without regulation, that does happen. And I'm so glad that they are protected now, although they have a long way to go before making a comeback, which is very, very sad. A lot of people don't know that chinchillas are endangered. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like guinea pigs are now extinct from, the wild version of the KV that they came from is extinct in the wild as well. So it does happen. And then people are just saying hello. Wonderful. Well, would we like to meet one other mammal really fast? I'm going to go get him. So go ahead and entertain the masses while I go grab our next animal.
So this is the things you won't see on TikTok. I don't do that. So everything on TikTok is educational stuff as well, but it's also stuff to make me laugh. But again, for those of you just tuning in, because I have the moment, I am Rachael with Doodlebugs Animal Adventures. Very similar to Once in a Wild, I do educational presentations in Orange County, California, and surrounding areas, but now I am teaching globally, virtually, both on OutSchool, and you can also check out the link below to go straight to my website and book regular programs. But that's enough about me because I want to see yay!
We're back. So this here, thank you so much for doing that. This is Loki, and he's of course a ferret. But he's actually a hybrid. He's a ferret and a European polecat hybrid. His mom was.
He's really big. Is he big for a ferret?
Yep, he is huge.
Okay. Again, that's what I can have in California. So I don't have one. I never worked with one, but he seems big.
So he's an extra large ferret because he is a hybrid, just like you would have like a wolf dog or something like that. He was from a very, very special breeder that we sought out our special ferrets from. And he's also holistically raised. He is not a mill ferret. He's not farm raised. He was raised with love in someone's home that specializes in these kind of ferrets, and kind of like the European way. And that's how ferrets are raised in Europe. They're not raised the way that we raise them in the pet trade here, which is a good thing. So we definitely didn't want to go that route unless we rescued, and we may do a rescue here and there. Who knows with ferrets? Ferrets definitely need a lot of rescuing sometimes. A lot of people do get ferrets and they don't want them anymore, or they're in a bad situation, just like the chinchilla. But yeah, these guys are holistic. They do eat raw meat. They're on a raw meat diet. They were not neutered early as well. So extra large ferret for all those reasons. Yeah, he's awesome. Loki does have a brother from another mother. His name is Thor. And Thor is our special white ferret. And Loki is actually the wild type, or the sable. And these guys look exactly like this in the wild, but they are not called a ferret in the wild. There's no wild ferrets except for the black-footed ferret, which is a North American species. This type of ferret comes from the European polecat, which of course is found in Europe, like the name says. And those guys are carnivores. So just like most of your mustelids or your weasel type animals, they are carnivores, and polecats are obligate carnivores. So they actually should never have any kind of carbohydrates or vegetables in their diet. It's very healthy for them to eat a raw meat diet. That is exactly what they eat. They have a very high metabolism as well, which is very unique for carnivores in general. These guys are having to eat pretty much all day long. They have to eat at least twice a day in the wild, which is super rare for a carnivore. And they usually stash away their food. So they will maybe catch like a rabbit or a bird or a rodent, or even something about maybe 5 times their size. They'll stash it away in their burrow underground, and then they will kind of snack on it all the time. And that's usually what they do. These guys are more solitary in the wild, but they have been seen living in small family groups. And a group of ferrets is called a business, which is a wonderful word for a group of animals. I love it. Right, Loki? He's so cute.
I love the sounds he's making. Like I could hear him eating, and it's like I hate hearing people chew, but he's adorable right now. I love that.
My hearing is terrible, so I can't really hear it very well. Plus, I'm talking. I can imagine his smacking. Yeah, I can hear if I put my ear next to him, of course. Yeah, that's super cool that you can hear that. So these guys are really all about their food. Right now, he's getting special treats that he doesn't otherwise. He's getting, I heard that noise. Speaking of noise.
Sorry, that's the Tony. That's the chinchilla running around.
That's fine. He's like, ferret. Ah! Scary. It's your predator. So these guys, they're all about their food. They absolutely love their food. They're very motivated with their diet, and he's getting a special treat right now, which is chicken baby food. That's what he likes to lick off of my fingers during programs, and it helps to keep him busy because these guys are super duper active. They don't like to sit still very long. It's not because they don't enjoy hanging out with us. It's because they're just so rambunctious all the time. So ferrets sleep a lot. They sleep tons and tons of hours a day. I forget how many hours they technically sleep. It's like half the day. But when they're up, they are up. And they're usually playing all the time with each other and eating or using the restroom. And they do a lot of that as well. They're very messy.
That's a lot like my 5-year-old. Like, that's a lot like my son. When he's up, he's up. He's probably eating or going to the bathroom and playing with his sister and very loud.
And being wild.
Just so much running. So much running.
Yeah. So I mentioned that they're kind of solitary-ish in the wild, but they will live with their family sometimes. They're kind of like different family to family, business to business, if you will. But in the care of humans, they've been domesticated for about 2,500 years or more, almost 3,000 years. And they were originally domesticated for the purposes of hunting with them. So these guys are obligate carnivores, and they do hunt really well. They are a top-tier predator in their ecosystem. They do really well hunting all kinds of rodents for people in their homes, I guess back then, like your castle or whatever you lived in back then. A lot of important people had them, or rich people had them back in the day. And they would use them for rabbit hunting in the field, rodent extermination, on boats as well. They would use them on boats. And they can even be trained to go into tunnels and help with all kinds of situations in tunnels. And they even have been used to string all kinds of electronics through tunnels, like wiring and things like that, where we can't get. So they're very smart, very trainable, and very food motivated.
And electricians.
Yeah, and electricians. They have a lot of different hats they can wear, I guess. And they don't call them a business for nothing, I guess. They have a lot of jobs. No, but these guys are awesome. A lot of people do, like we said before, they desire a ferret for a pet. They're not necessarily a bad pet. They are a domesticated animal, so you could potentially have a ferret or two in your home. But they are extremely high maintenance. They are not low maintenance at all. You cannot just throw them in an enclosure or a cage and forget about them. They are disgustingly messy. They use the restroom all day long because they're eating a lot and they're going to the bathroom and eating some more, and the cycle continues. Usually I recommend cleaning up after them at least twice a day. So that's a lot of work. They also are super smelly. Now, since he's holistic and he wasn't raised on kibble, they actually smell less when they're eating a proper diet of raw meat. But he still does stink. He smells kind of skunky to me. He's mustelid. Yeah, you can probably smell it from here. But their feces does stink as well. So as you might imagine, most animals do smell when they use the restroom, don't they? You are so cute. Now, a lot of people, they don't know they're related to all kinds of weasels and otters and wolverines and badgers. All those guys are all in the same category. Some people assume they might be rodents, like a chinchilla, but they're not. They are definitely not. They're actually the hunter of rodents. They eat rodents and rabbits and birds and any other animals they can catch. They are very capable predators.
They have a really, really strong bite too, huh?
Yes, they do. Our boys are.
They've got their jawbone is actually the design. So I remember from mammalogy back when I was, doing the thinky stuff in college. They have the top part of their jaw actually hooks over the lower part. So when they bite, it's hard to open up that mouth. And they also, I think something about the dumbbell shaped molar. I don't know. That part kind of.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah. So.
Teach them that.
But yeah, something about the jaw. They've got such a strong bite, just like all the members in that family. It's one of the indicative traits of that grouping of animals. It's like that really strong bite. I don't know. It sounds like I'm gonna pick a fight with it or something.
Yeah. It's almost like a parrot. Like they have like a very, very blunt kind of skull. Almost like, what other animals have that? But I mean, think of like a honey badger. That's one of the family members. Who knows a honey badger don't care, and a honey badger will go after anything, and they're not scared of stuff. Otters too. Otters are very strong. They have to swim through the water and catch slippery fish. So they need a really super strong bite. These guys can hunt animals up to 5 times their body size. And little tiny ermines and small weasels can hunt animals up to 10 times their body size. So they better have a strong bite. They don't have retractable claws like cats. So they can't really grip onto an animal with their claws. They can try a little bit. They have kind of pseudo hands, but it's all about the bite. So you're totally right. They have a super strong bite. Super amazing. Very, very capable predators. People don't know that because they're used to seeing them like in homes and things like, oh, how sweet. But
yeah, people think of them as like little clowns. But you have to keep in mind that they're a clown, but they could be like the scary clown if not treated correctly. Right?
They're completely wild killers. When they
looked over at me when I said that. He like looked over like, I hear you.
Excuse me. Yeah. Side eye. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell I got the side eye there.
They especially cannot be kept around other small animals in your home. We like to emphasize that as well. People go, oh, I want to get a ferret and put it in with my, rat or something like that. Don't do that. That will be.
It's one way to only have one pet.
Yep, then you'll just have one again. Yeah. So very, very good questions here. This is going to be our final animal, you guys, and thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to keep on talking, though, if you'd like, Rachel, but I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. My hands are awfully messy, so we're going to wait to put them down before I highlight people's questions. Jason says, extra, extra large. Yes, he looks beautiful. Wow. Sables are big ferrets, essentially. So his coloration is a sable, but other ferrets that are smaller can be the same color. As you can see, he's quite big. Look at him go. So these guys, I know. So one thing I really love about ferrets is they're very flexible. And by the way, he does not mind being messed with. They're so tough. Ferrets
I should tell you if he didn't.
He has super flexible spine. Even though he's a chunky boy, he can flex all the way like this. And that is actually for the purpose of tunneling. So they are going to be a terrestrial mammal. They don't really climb trees or anything like that. They could probably like jump onto a fallen log or something, but not so much climbing. So animals that want to get away from them would climb trees and probably be fine. But they are going to dig into tunnel systems, like I said before, with running wires and things like that. But in the natural world, they go into warrens of rabbits and eat the rabbits. And they might hit a dead end. So if they go into a dead end, they can literally just snake their way back out. They're almost like a little snake. They have extremely flexible spines. And another reason for that design is going to be to help themselves out if they get attacked by like a bird of prey or something like that. Because just because you're a predator doesn't mean you don't have predators, because they do. They have some predators too. Not every, well, there are bigger ones than hen. That's what I'm trying to say. So like birds of prey are going to be their main predators over there in Europe. So like eagles and hawks and owls and things. So if a bird of prey grabs him here, he can reach around and bite and hopefully, you know, deter that predator a little bit better than not. But since they don't have, you know, claws like a cat or anything like that, they can claw a little bit, but it's kind of wimpy, to be honest with you. They have wimpy little legs. Their bite is going to be their defense and their weapon for eating as well and hunting. But yeah, that flexibility of the spine helps them to reach around, defend themselves, or get out of a tunnel very easily. Pretty awesome. Here's a good question. Are ferrets related to mongoose? They actually are in separate families, I believe. Mongoose are kind of their own thing, aren't they?
Yeah. There's Viveridae, there's Mustelidae. These are
Mustelidae. So
these are Mustelidae. I think that they are in Viveridae. So they're with like civets and stuff.
Yes, so I think they are also related to meerkats, or meerkats their own thing as well.
That's a good question. I can't remember. I
Something to learn. Let's learn together. So we're gonna look that up. Yes, so they're not related to mongooses, to answer your question, and I believe mongoose are their own thing, and they may be related to meerkats, but I could be wrong. I think they are. Ricky says, I'm looking into this. Interesting. And Viviana says, thanks for the fun, Rachel and Amanda. You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. I'm going to let Loki go rest. Entertain the masses one more time. I'll be right back.
Okay. So how's it going? No, I'm kidding. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is actually my first time joining on one of these with Once in a Wild. I'm super duper excited to be here. So we do a lot of educational programs and now are able to do all of this virtually as well. So thank you, COVID, I guess. I don't know, that's weird to say, but it gave us some new skill sets. I guess, like it's horrible, but it helped us kind of reach a bigger audience and do stuff like this. And I honestly have never done one of these YouTube/Facebook lives. I do Instagram live, and Amanda did join us for one of those with my So You Want to Work with Animals interviews, where I interview people from all over the world that are working with animals in different fields. So this one is exciting though, just doing the animal presentations and kind of talking to another wildlife educator. It's so much fun. So thank you. Thank you for having me here. This was a lot of fun.
I agree. This was a lot of fun. You're welcome. And thank you to everybody joining in. I'm going to clean up my entire table from all this baby food. I'll do that later. I wanted to make
baby food all over on the walls.
So similar, but for different reasons. The ferret is hard to hold for a long period of time because he just wants to get down and run around. And he's like, I'm done with food. I'm ready to run. I'm like, oh, I've got you for a little bit. And then you can go back home. But yeah, so we cut his time a little bit short as well. But he's just adorable. I love him. So otters, yes, they're related to otters. All those guys are related. So pretty awesome. Yeah, he flex. His flex, yes. I wish I was that flexible sometimes. I could do all kinds of yoga with that flexible spine. Pretty awesome. How long do you think Loki is? He is this long.
We were just talking about that before the show started. We work with a lot of kids, and a question we get quite a bit is, how big is it? So when you bring out an adult animal and they ask, how big is it? You're like, this big. So that is why we are cracking up right now.
We were just talking about that off live stream. Also, he is an extra large ferret. They're not all that big, like we mentioned a little bit ago. Females are actually, they're dimorphic too. So they're much, much smaller than male. So females are always smaller. A female's called a Jill and a male's called a Hob, by the way. But the Hobs are always bigger, but he's extra large because he is a hybrid, having that European bloodline from the European polecat. So you normally don't see them that big. So he is kind of an anomaly. He is
bigger would a polecat be?
Huh?
How much bigger would the actual polecat, like a full polecat, how much bigger would he be? Like if you're looking at a regular one versus the polecat, would it be twice the size?
No, not nearly that big. So he's about there. So a polecat would be around 6 to 7 pounds at the very, very most during the winter. Their body weight actually does fluctuate. seasonally. During the summer, a polecat can be around 4 to 5 pounds, and during the winter, they can be up to 7 or so pounds. 7.5, I think, was the top. He is over 5 pounds, so he is a pretty big ferret. And right now, it's about to we're about to get into wintertime ish, kind of whatever Texas gives us, I guess. But his instincts are his body's kicking into wintertime. He's getting that extra long coat like you saw, extra body weight. He's not always that chunky looking. That's totally normal for a ferret to build up body weight, and then they lose a little bit of it during the summer. Pretty cool. But it makes sense because they have to actually, they don't hibernate. So during the winter, they have to survive throughout the entire winter because they are such a high metabolism type animal. They have to continuously eat through the winter. So they stash a lot of food in their den underground. Naturally, it'll actually freeze. So that works out really well. And then they have to kind of grow that extra hair and body weight to survive. Pretty awesome. All right. Trying to make sure anybody doesn't have any other questions. Cedric says, oh no, they can hunt things 5 times their size. I think Loki may be able to hunt me. Cedric, are you not ready?
Just run, Cedric, run.
Run. They are capable predators, but I don't think they can take down a human. No. But that is funny. Okay, guys, it looks like that is it for tonight. Again, please check out all of the Doodlebugs things. They're all over social media. They're on TikTok, like she said. They're on Twitter. They're going to be on Instagram as well. Her website, of course, is down below there in the green box down there. I also linked a whole bunch of the social media links in the description down below. Please make sure and check all those out. You're also on YouTube as well.
I am. The YouTube is more story time. So we have a few things on there, but it's more story times with animals. So it's more for the younger age, but I'll try and get some more stuff on there, but
totally fine.
There's only one of me.
Oh, totally. I understand. This is a one-woman show as well. I have Ricky as well, but as far as the show goes, it's just me. But you're also on YouTube, so I want to make sure and let everybody know that you're everywhere.
Thank
so
you.
wonderful. I'm sure you can find all of that at doodlebugsanimaladventures.com, or just ask her. I'm sure you can contact her that way as well, just to ask where to find all those things. Call us too if you guys are interested in the San Antonio, Texas area for programs. Our number's down below, as well as our website. But we're both available in person in California. And where exactly are you located in California?
I'm actually in Orange County, California. So things haven't quite opened up all that much right now. So like I said, I was supposed to have an in-person presentation on the 12th. We have since changed that to a virtual presentation. It's with Bella Terra, which is a mall in Huntington Beach. So with their kids club, it will be a creepy crawly presentation, but it will be virtual now. So I am actually not doing a lot of in-person presentations quite yet. I'm also type 1 diabetic, so I am a little bit more cautious of going out into public. But that being said, I am doing so many. I just counted the other day. I've done over 80 virtual presentations since March. Yeah, it's been a lot. But it's been really fun. So you can always book a presentation that way. I'm doing a lot of creepy crawly presentations right now, doing a lot, even some birthday parties here and there, which I didn't previously do, but I am making an exception because I know a lot of kids are missing out on a lot of stuff right now. So I am doing virtual birthday presentations as well. But yeah, I'm in Orange County, California, so I serve Orange County. I go into LA a little bit, and I do go into Riverside County a little bit as well for the in-person presentations.
And of course, this also won't be forever, and this wonderful video will be on YouTube for many years to come, hopefully. So in the future, we're talking to future people out there. We're going into definitely check her out for the Orange County area in California. And I would love to do another virtual presentation with you again if you're up for it, maybe on another platform. Fun. So stay tuned for that and some more interviews and some more fun videos right here at Once in a While. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be very, very helpful for us. And subscribe and follow us on all the social media. That's a free way that you can help us out. So please do that and share the video with all your family and friends who love animals. And is there anything else you want to say last minute, Rachel?
No, but thank you again. Yeah, so this is Doodlebugs Animal Adventures for me, and I am most active on Instagram. That's where I have quite a bit of my Instagram lives. I have a lot of behind the scenes stuff, as well as most of my posts are on there. So if you're interested in that, please check out my Instagram, but I am on all those other platforms as well. And again, for those who are interested in outschool.com, that is the virtual global online teaching platform, which is an amazing platform. Even if you don't take an animal class with me, there are some truly awesome classes on there, all for ages 3 to 18, free to sign up. You just pay for the individual classes as you go. And I also have a link on my Instagram and Facebook for $20 towards your first class. So check it out. Again, that's an excellent place to do some virtual classes that are anything from cooking to animals to karate to English to math and other languages. So all sorts of fun stuff on there. So I'm also a teacher on OutSchool, and you can find me as Doodlebugs Animal Adventures on the OutSchool platform as well.
Wonderful. I love that. Well, thank you so very much, Rachael. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. For those of y'all that check out our show on a regular basis, or if you don't, please check us out every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and that's going to be 4:30 p.m. California time, of course. We do our free broadcast every single Wednesday evening, and that is a really fun Q&A with usually 3 or 4 of our animals as well here at Once in a Wild. And stay tuned for more random encounters as well, maybe with some more collaborations and things to come. But with that, we will go ahead and say goodbye with our song, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks. Bye.
We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while, together. Once in a while, I wanna hear you say once in a while. And that's the fun for me and you.
Okay, guys, we'll see you guys next time this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Central. Bye.